I call this meeting of Sylvania City Council for November the 6th, 2023 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Hanson?
Here.
Mr. Hanem?
Here.
Mr. McCann?
Here.
Mr. Richardson?
Here.
Ms. Stout?
Here.
Mrs. Westfall?
Here.
All 7 members of City Council are present, therefore a quorum does exist. We have a couple of groups in the council chambers with us tonight. First are some scouts who are going to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance in a minute, but also several people here from Notre Dame Academy. And you're welcome as well. As I told some of them, this is not necessarily a very long agenda. We will sign your forms afterwards, either myself or the president of council. So everybody's welcome. With that, I'm going to ask the scouts to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Scout salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda, I would like to add as agenda item 4A, an update by Fire Chief Ram about the fire department and perhaps some vehicle purchases that have happened since the last time he was here. Mr. Fry.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Other members of City Council. Chief Miller.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schroyer.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Aller.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
And Ms. Brining.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the agenda is approved for this evening's meeting. Agenda item 4 is approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on October the 16th. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move approval of the meeting minutes for the council meeting of October 16th, 2023, as submitted.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and those meeting minutes are approved. Chief Ram, we appreciate you being here tonight. That's a nice thing to do every now and then.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to speak, but everybody knows I don't have a problem speaking, so I guess,
You have been reporting at my staff meetings about vehicle purchases, and
Yes,
it's
sir.
probably a good idea to do.
yeah, I just kind of wanted to give everybody an update. The two recent engines that we had purchased, ordered back in like 2020, both of them have been delivered, are in service. The ambulance transport that we ordered December of 2020, I'm going to go pick it up on Thursday from Columbus. The second one that we ordered in January of 2023, I still haven't been told any delivery time on that. And then you guys may have read that the trustees allowed me to put in the purchase for a new ladder truck because the tiller truck's 12 years old. So, and I had to do that early, you guys, and we're doing a lease option or lease to buy. The problem is a build time on a ladder truck right now is over 5 years. Wow. So it's going to be between 4 and 5 years before that truck even gets there, and it was $2.1 million. So I get the shakes when I talk about money like that, because that, to me, that's just a very, very lot of money. And it's not my money to spend, it's our community's money. So the guys did a real good job speccing it out and didn't put bells and whistles and things, but more things that they need to do the job with. The one other thing I will tell you is that since the Lucas County switchover is going to happen, our part has been postponed till March 1st from January 1st. 13 of us are going March 1st, and Toledo's supposed to go June 5th or 6th, somewhere in that area. But in that movement, since we have a white life squad, that will be going away. However, we were due to get a new white one next, because ours is one of the oldest ones. We are getting a new red black over red. They painted it our colors, and I'm going to get that at the end of November, between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I have to stripe it and put our numbers on it, but it's coming painted red and that from the county. And once that goes, and once I have that ready to go, then we'll be giving the white rig back to the
Perhaps,
county.
Chief, a quick update of what the changeover means?
Well, what the changeover means for us is $804,000 that we get every year to operate that Life Squad 6. We will continue to get that. However, part of that is we will now be responsible for ALS coverage of Richfield or Berkey. So, and I think they had 202 EMS calls last year, and we were on probably 200 of them anyhow. So, as a matter of fact, last Thursday, I think it was, a gentleman had a crash at Sylvania and 295, and myself, Battalion 6 and Engine 62 were first on scene. So I can see that happening a little bit more and more, because the volunteer part out there's unfortunately dwindling down to almost nothing. But the great part about that was the guy came in today and shook our hands and brought some donuts. And when you leave an incident like that, thinking, I mean, I walked up to the car and yelled, "Hey," and someone yelled, "Hey," back, and I went, "Hey, what? Someone's alive in that thing," because it was one of the worst looking vehicles accidents. 42 years I've been doing it that I walked up on. So thank God he was able to come in today and thank all the guys and girls for what they did. But I'm here if anyone has any questions or anything for me. I know I haven't been here in a little while, and I apologize for that, but getting prepared for retirement, so.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Mr. Fry?
Chief, some years ago, the community supported your officers and our safety forces by passing a bond levy.
Yes, sir.
These investments in these vehicles is part of the outcome of that, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And what I've done is we really looked at, obviously, the cost of these vehicles are through the roof. And the time frame to get them built, I've gone into leasing programs. So the last two engines, this ladder truck and the two ambulances will all be leased to own. So we lease them for 5 years and then we own them at the end of it. So we're getting somewhere between 5 and 7, 5 and 8 years frontline use, meaning that's the first truck or it's going out, and then maybe 5 years of backup service out of these. And remember, a couple of chiefs before me bought 3 all on the same day, so I had to stagger because we didn't have the money to replace all 3 at the same time. So that's kind of why these have come in staggered, because I had to do that because of the cost of everything.
Right. And you had mentioned the one that we ordered 3 years ago.
Yes.
It is, I'm assuming that's like everything else. I mean, it takes us 8 months to get steel poles anymore, for crying out loud.
Yep.
So is that just supply chain stuff that we're dealing with?
You
Or
know,
is,
I think there's a twofold on it. I think honestly, I think it's a supply chain, but I think it's a workforce issue too, because we all know that that's going on. Because what happened was we buy them from Horton, which is in Columbus, and they purchased a big warehouse. They were having trouble getting the chassis. Well, when Mr. Penske and Hertz and all these other guys that have the U-Hauls and all that, they ordered 20,000 of them. Of course, they're going to build those 20,000 when there's 4,000 ambulances ordered. So what Horton did was purchased a big warehouse down there and built the box that goes on the back, and they're all lined up in the warehouse waiting for the chassis to come. So it should speed it up some, but they're still having some, like component things just like everybody else is. But this one, I think this one was just a chassis issue.
okay,
Yeah, I think waiting for that chassis to come in, so.
okay, thanks.
Sure. Anybody else? All right.
Any update or wisdom you want to give council on the 911 dispatcher issue?
To be honest, we haven't had any hiccups in a little while, but, like the other day, that auto aid thing worked exactly how it's supposed to. But I haven't seen any 911 inquiries come through off my desk, because they all come through so I can read them before they get sent on, because I want them to be truthful in what we need to send down there. We don't just send, "Hey, you did this or you did that." So we're making sure that we're following up on that, so.
So it's working.
But if, right now it's working for fire. I can't speak for the police side, but for us in the EMS side, it's been working fine. Yeah. I sit on the committee to watch what they're doing anyhow, so they know I'm not afraid to speak up if something's not right, so.
Never been bashful?
Never, don't think so. I don't think so, so.
Okay. Any
All right.
further questions for the chief?
All right, thanks.
We
for your time.
appreciate your attendance and your update tonight.
Not a problem, thanks.
Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Chief.
Getting back to our published agenda, agenda item 5 is 2024 budget. Mr. Fry, report of the Finance Committee held on October the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee meeting met on October 19th. All members of the committee were in attendance, all members of council were in attendance, as well as the mayor, Mr. Schroyer, Mr. Eller, and Mrs. Brining. It's important, and I'll just, before I go through incremental information, it's important to recognize the work that the city administrative staff does to try to put this together. It takes weeks and weeks, if not longer, to put the budget together. And I wanted to thank the administrative staff and Mr. Schroyer and his team particularly for that. He's, as part of the Finance Committee meeting, he mentioned that he's projecting a 4% income tax increase year over year. And it's good to know that the general fund budget is balanced, as it has been for many years. We have the expectation that next year in 2024, if passed as proposed, about $4 million of money that's going to be transferred from the general fund to fund our capital improvements. One of the conversations that occurred, this is the last year of our union contract with a increase coming, and obviously negotiations will be occurring this coming year in 2024 for a new contract for the various unions. Our bonds are set to be paid off in 2031, as Mr. Schroyer reported. And during the meeting, Mr. Hanum had some thoughts and mentioned that he had some ideas and wanted to have another finance committee meeting or a safety committee meeting about dealing with the court costs. That is something that is, we all know, is a substantial annual net deficit for the city as we pay for costs for other communities, not just the city's charges. So with that, after reviewing and asking serious questions, Mr. Hanum made a motion and Mrs. Westfall seconded that we move the budget as proposed by the administrative staff for first reading. That motion carried, and we adjourned at 9 a.m.
Mr. Fry,
Yes.
the only thing I want to make clear is we are projecting a 4% increase in income tax receipts. We're not.
Receipts.
We are not increasing the income tax.
Sorry. Did I say income? Did I increase it?
I think it was maybe unclear. I just
Okay.
wanted to make clear.
No. Thank you very much.
It's the receipts because our businesses in Sylvania are doing well, and as are our residents, so our income tax receipts are going up. We have not changed.
Thank you very much for the clarification. And that's a faux pas, certainly, on my part.
I'm not sure it was unclear, but it hit my ear wrong.
Okay.
For the scouts and the other students in the room, the city charter requires us to read ordinances 3 times unless we waive that. And oftentimes, it's just a perfunctory thing that we waive the second and third readings, but not on the budget. We want the word to get out to our residents that the budget's available, they have a chance to come back and review it. And we are just going to have a first reading tonight. It can be by title only, but that's what I'm expecting tonight. And our goal is to have this approved by the first meeting in December, which is 2 more meetings from now. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 88, 2023, and I would like to read by title only. To make appropriations for current expenditures and other expenditures of the city of Sylvania, Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2024.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded for a first reading of ordinance 88, 2023 by title only. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we'll be back on the agenda at our next meeting. Agenda items 6 and 7, we actually have the demolition of 2 properties in the city on the agenda tonight. Mr. Aller, the first one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first property that we're discussing is at 5123 Huron Road. It was a property that the city purchased in June of 2019 via ordinance 64-2019. The home on the property is in poor shape, and we believe it's in our interest to demolish the structure and to have that property open for speculative development purposes. We did receive quotes for the demolition services, and the best proposal was provided by Clum Brothers Landscaping of Swanton. We've dealt with this company in the past, and they're a very good company and reputable firm. So we request approval to enter into an agreement with Clum Brothers in the amount of $19,000 for demolition of the residence at 5123 Huron Road.
And Mr. Aller, just to be clear, that's a residence we own, the city
That's
is
correct.
the owner of that.
That's correct.
Okay. And we believe this will enhance the value of the property.
This property is across from Flower Hospital, and we bought it to help direct the future of that and other properties as they are developed. With that,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
sorry, before we proceed,
Richardson.
I would like to push back from the table on this and the next one as well as a possible conflict of interest.
I understand. Is there a motion and a second to allow Mr. Richardson to push back from the table?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let the record show that Mr. Richardson is pushed back from the table. Ms. Stowe, this is a city-owned property, and we would like you to read ordinance number 89, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 89-2023 and read by title only. Authorizing the mayor and director of finance to accept the proposal of Clum Brothers Landscaping LLC, appropriating funds therefore in the amount of $19,000. I move for passage of ordinance number 89-2023 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance number 89, 2023 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance number 89, 2023 is enacted as an emergency measure. Agenda item 7 is another demolition, but this is a different animal. This is a nuisance abatement rather than a city-owned property. Ms. Brining, you want to read or tell us about this one?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you indicated, this is a procedure that we haven't used in about 20 years. We typically have very good cooperation from our residents in taking care of any zoning issues that they might have. But this one has been in disrepair for a couple of years. Mr. Burns has made several attempts to get in touch with the owner, who now lives in Florida, and just has had no response, zero response to any letters. We've tried to get in touch with phone calls, so we had the opportunity with the fire department, the Lucas County Building Department earlier this summer to inspect it, and from the front, it looks fine, but the back of the house is in serious disrepair and is deteriorating. Parts of the roof are off. So it's their opinion that it does meet the requirements of a nuisance and it should be demolished. So this is kind of step one of the procedure. So it is $10,500, but that will be added to their property taxes. We'll come back after the demolition is complete with an ordinance for you to put that on the tax bill. So although the city is advancing the funds, we will get it back once when and if the property is ever sold.
Questions of the law director? Mr. Hanem, this is a zoning issue.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, am I still pushed back from the last vote?
We haven't shown you back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Are we ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, council, I move adoption of ordinance number 90-2003, all members having received copies. I'll read by title only, accepting the proposal of Clum Brothers Landscaping LLC to abate the nuisance at 5647 Delbrook Drive, Sylvania, Ohio, at a cost of $10,500, authorizing said company to proceed with the abatement, appropriating the necessary funds therefore, and I move adoption of ordinance number 90-2023 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 90, 2023 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and ordinance 90, 2023 is enacted as an emergency measure. That takes us to agenda item 8, committee reports. There was a finance committee meeting held in these council chambers tonight at 6:30 p.m. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee this evening was to review the investment policy that was sent out by Mr. Schroyer a few days ago, last week. All the committee members were in attendance, myself as chair, Mrs. Westfall, Mr. Hanem, Mr. Richardson. Also in attendance from council were Mr. Hanson and Mr. McCann, members of administrative staff, Mr. Schroyer, Mrs. Brining, Chief Miller, and Mayor Stow were also in attendance. You'll recall back, I believe it was in June, that we had an initial meeting about potential changes to our investment policy, or the policy itself is over 20 years old, so it needed updating. We went through a number of potential changes back and forth before it was brought before you. Mr. Schroyer went through those, highlighting the various changes in the policy, and then we opened it up for questions and comments. Members of council had incremental changes, clarifications that we worked through after conversation, and members of the committee were comfortable with the modifications as proposed from the various members of council. So with that, Mr. Hanem made a motion, Mr. Richardson seconded to ask council to put this on the agenda next time. So I'll make a motion to ask the administrative staff to update the investment policy with the changes as proposed in the meeting this evening, and bring legislation before the next council meeting in 2 weeks.
Second.
Before we proceed with that vote, let the record show that Mr. Richardson has rejoined us at the table and can participate in this report or on the ordering of the changes in the legislation. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any other committee referrals or reports to be made at this time? Hearing none. That brings us to the end of our council agenda. There are third quarter reports attached in your council packets. As always, I encourage you to put those into the binders that the city supplies you. And there was some additional updates or something sent out. Look for those in your emails as well.
Yep, and I have extra copies. If anybody would like them, I have them with me.
I will. All right. With that, we are at the end of our council agenda. Pretty short meeting tonight. Chief Ram.
Could I add one little thing? I do want to say thank you to the city the property 5123, the room, we were able to use for some training, so the fire department does say thank you for allowing us to use that to get some good training in.
We're glad you could take advantage of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. McCann.
I just wanted to remind everyone that Election Day is tomorrow, and we appreciate your support.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and this council stands adjourned until our next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, November 20th. Thank you all for attending.